Hi, Austin. Hope your festival is a great success.
And who are you anyway?
Oh, I'm SARA KARLOFF, and you're about to see one of my father's films, The Old Dark House. Frankenstein, which was made a year earlier than The Old Dark House, was my dad's 81st film, and no one had seen the first 80, as he pointed out. My father had become, by this time, he'd become an overnight success after 20 years in the business. So he was a star, quote unquote, by this time. And the cast of The Old Dark House is absolutely a stellar cast. All the actors in it were stars, really, in their own right. And my father, behind all the makeup of the genius makeup artist Jack Pierce, the makeup on my father was just magnificent. And that was the role, really, the makeup. He loved working with these actors that he knew, and he loved doing the film. Well, I think one of the scariest scenes in almost any movie I've seen is when my father slowly opens the peephole in the front door, and you see the makeup slowly exposed, and you see my father's face in this extraordinarily spooky, scary makeup, and then he begins to mumble something totally incoherent. I think the way that is shot, the way it is built upon, is one of the scariest scenes in cinema film. Scares me because I don't like scary movies. I'm a wuss. When the music rises, I'm out of the room. I mean, Murder, She Wrote, I'm done. And I really don't like to be discomforted. You know, I'm a scaredy cat. So, and what did that to me was The Wizard of Oz scared me to death. So I didn't make a habit of going to frightening films. Still don't. And when my father, not having been born yet, when Frankenstein and Old Dark House and The Mummy were made, I didn't see them originally. And then when they came back around in the theaters again, I was going to a private girls' school, and it really wasn't what nice young ladies went to see, which seems really odd. But actors don't generally go to see their own films. A lot of actors don't, because they sit through the entire film in agony, wishing they'd played the scene differently. My father didn't go to see his own films because he lived his life as a quote unquote star, saying, what's the big deal? A plumber can't act and an actor can't fix a sink. He truly was a very modest man and did not live his life as a Hollywood movie star. So he didn't go and see his own films. He didn't see Frankenstein. Well, when he made Frankenstein, for instance, he wasn't even invited to the premiere. So that he didn't go to the daily rushes because he was still getting his makeup off. And in order to get any sleep at all, he had to go right home and get a little bit of sleep, and then go back to the studio to start the whole process over for the next day. And at that time, the actors in his position, because he was only a daily player, were treated like pieces of meat. And so, as I say, by the time he made The Old Dark House, he was a star, and it was a totally different story, indeed. But, and he was treated differently. But the difference of the way he was treated is one of the reasons that it was so important to him, the fact that he could be one of the founding members of the Screen Actors Guild. My father was passionate about his work with the Screen Actors Guild. He was one of the founding members, and his card number was number 9. And he had experienced being a piece of meat at the hands of the directors and studio bosses. And when he and the other 11 founding members had gotten to a point in their career where they had a voice, they felt it important to create a vehicle by which they could speak out on their own behalf, but also on behalf of the other up-and-coming actors. And my mother's told the story that the couples would go to a party and dance by one another on the dance floor and whisper, meeting Tuesday night at so-and-so's house, and dance on by, because it was dangerous what they were doing. They were putting their careers totally on the line with the formation of the guild. But he didn't want any praise for it. He never talked about his work. He never talked about his films or anything. He never brought his work home. One time he called me about The Grinch, and I had 2 boys by this time, and he said, I was wondering if you were doing anything tonight, because I've done something that's going to air tonight, and I think it's pretty good. You might enjoy it if you sat down and watched it with the boys. They might enjoy it too. I said, sure, what? I mean, I was flabbergasted, because he never brought his work home. He never talked about his work. And he said, it's called How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And he said, I think it's pretty good. And I mean, you know, he had no ego. He had no ego. And so we watched it pretty good. Yeah, I guess it was pretty good, you know. Won a Grammy for it. His agent accepted the Grammy for him. He was in England, and when he came over the next time to work, he went to his agent's office, and his agent said, here, Boris, here's your Grammy. And my father took it and looked at it and said, looks like a bloody doorstop. And he put it over, walked over and put it by his agent's door and left it there. No ego, not interested in the trappings. And I have it now, but.
Good.
I feel very privileged, because I've just been told I'm one of the 3 people that has heard the new score for The Old Dark House. And so I've seen it before you have. I've heard it before you have. And I feel very pleased to tell you that I know you're going to love it, as I did. And I know you're going to enjoy your evening watching The Old Dark House with its new score.